Howdy folks, welcome back. It's August 11th, 2020. Beautiful day here in the state of Washington. Gale Crater, you can't handle the truth. I always like that line from Jack Nicholson. I was always a big fan of Jack's. I think that was Officer and a Gentleman in court, right? You can't handle the truth. A lot of people, before I started shaving my head, used to say that I looked like Jack Nicholson, but really it was just the eyebrows. I have these eyebrows that always make me look angry, even no matter how happy I am. So, truth has many layers, right? I think that was one of our astronauts who said something like that. And I've always tried to speak the truth on this channel as best I can. And when I find out I make a mistake, I'm always ready, willing, and able to own up to it. This is a incredible panoramic picture. It's a Gigapan, and like so many of the Gigapans, they're incredible, beautiful pictures, and very revealing as well. And this one is revealing. We've seen all kinds of things on this channel, everything from little ships to great big ships to motherships. And well, this is what we're going to have in this one. We've got some things to look at in here. All kinds of crazy stuff all over the ground. It's a typical debris. We just really don't ever know what it is. Just lots of it. It's pretty clear. This picture, though, has kind of an unusual color. Maybe it's just the tint or the filter that they put on it. So everything, once again, almost has that one color fits all filter on it. You do get a little bit of color out of it, and I really couldn't get any contrast to speak of. So there's some pictures coming up down the way a little bit here where I wipe the pictures out in order to get as much contrast as I can. So they'll look pretty funny. And I took a lot of random pictures just from all over this image. Nothing not in order. Just a lot of times I go from left to right. These are just from random locations. Now, how's that for a pile of rocks? Huh? That's some pretty interesting looking rocks there. So I think we're looking at a lot of technology there, even though we don't know what it is. Same thing here. That is one interesting flat rock with whatever it has on top of it. And like I've been saying for quite a while now, Gale Crater is covered with the remains of downed craft, and we see a lot of these patterns on the ground, that little black specks that go out as far as the eye can see. And this is the hull of ships that have come down that is deteriorating. Just like everything that we're looking at here is deteriorating hulls, deteriorating vessels, and probably a lot of death that came along with this, no doubt, because Gale Crater is completely covered with all of this type of thing. And here's one of those strange looking sand dunes again. And originally I was telling myself that last video I found some sand that looked pretty fakey, and seen that quite a bit, and originally I thought this was just some more of that fakey sand. And I suppose this picture passed NASA's test, because if you hadn't zoomed in on this boring looking pile of sand, you would just assume that it's just sand. But it isn't. It's a piece of hull, and you can just barely make out the pattern on it. We've seen different kinds of patterns, from strips of metal to hulls that are put together that look like that pounded, hammered copper. Have you ever seen that before? Different kinds of hull. And here's a piece of something. I'd like to see somebody call that a rock. They could start out by calling it a rock, but All you got to do is see whatever that is coming down off of it, and obviously it's not a rock. I'll probably never get that chip off my shoulder about people calling everything rocks. But that mostly goes back to the days before I started mining the gold from these Gigapan pictures. Back when things were everything blurred. Everything was blurred. What is this thing here? It almost reminds me of like something from NASA. You know how we paint everything white? This looks like it's painted white. And I don't ever recall seeing anything quite like that. Now this Gigapan panoramic is really very, very large. And there is so much stuff in it. And one of the things that we've learned in the past, in particular going back to the Mount Sharp videos, I started noticing on Mount Sharp these rocky outcroppings that frequently came in twos. It would look like a normal rocky outcropping from a distance, but then when you zoomed in on it, it was not, and it turned out to be the remains of downed triangular vessels. And so time after time it was proven. You see these two lines that look like rocky outcroppings, and you'd look at it and it never is, because as far as I can tell and everything I've ever seen, there are no rocks in Gale Crater. If there are, they're underneath all these vessels, and you start seeing shapes. Now I'm zoomed way out here, way in the background. You know me, that's what I like to do. And you start seeing shapes, don't you? Some of the shapes that I've talked about, in particular way in the back in the light area here, you see the strips of metal. This is again something I've been talking about ever since the video on Mount Sharp. They put things together with strips of metal. In particular, really huge, really huge craft. They're so big I couldn't tell you for sure if they're triangular, but everything else I've seen is triangular. Every craft except for occasional airplanes and those long tube looking things. So you'll see a lot of the lines going from left to right. And one of the things I noticed in this video, in this image, was that these lines that go from left to right go from the entire left side to the right and back again on this entire panoramic image. One continuous line, or I should say two continuous lines or more, from one side of this panoramic to another. And as usual, these things are usually bleached out. They have too much brightness or too much contrast or something. So I'm doing, gymnastics and trying to get these, get some pictures for us to look at here. But here we have at least two vessels. And the one in the background, made out of the strips, is incredibly huge, you guys. It is by far the biggest one that we've seen. And as we know, they come down on top of each other, so it could very well be resting on this one next to it, or it could be butted up against it. No way to know. But it runs the entire length of this panoramic image. It is ginormous. What is there a word for it? In Independence Day, they talked about these 25-mile across ships. Okay, I think this could be at least 25 miles long. Can you even imagine that for real? And there are more of them, no doubt. So there are a lot of people who can't handle this. They cannot handle this truth. They can't even handle the more simple truths that I've been showing. They just don't believe it, or it's dismissive in some way or another. But this is a serious amount of truth here, you guys. Anytime you see one vessel Well, I mean, have you ever? Of course you haven't. It's like having, I don't know, several thousand aircraft carriers end to end. It's just mind-boggling. And all the pictures we're looking at here right now are, I took a screenshot, the largest screenshot I could, and then moved it over, went edge to edge to give you an idea how many pictures it takes me to show you this one continuous long vessel. In other words, there's no way to show you the entire picture. You know, if it were small and you could see it all at once, it'd be so small you couldn't see anything. It's the picture at the beginning of this video. So I think it took me 8 screenshots to go from one end to the other of this. So if you look out there, that could be what? Out in the distance, maybe 3 miles across from one end to the other. Times 8 pictures. Well, there you go. That's 24 miles. At least 24-mile long vehicle. Thanks for watching, guys.